I will be looking for a motion to accept those meeting minutes. Second?
Got it.
All right. All approved? David, are you abstaining?
Abstain.
One abstention, thank you.
All right. Moving on to public comments. At this point, we will open up the floor for any public comment.
We did not have anyone sign up for
Okay.
public comments tonight.
All right, moving on to current business. I would like to invite our representative from the Hampstead Mothers Club to come on up. Wow. Very much.
No, you got to say something.
No? So, the Hampstead Mothers Club has graciously donated $3,000 to support the Salt Box Pantry here at the middle school. So we just really want to thank them for their generosity. And this is just one of many things that you have supported for our district. So we just can't say how grateful we are for all that you do for us and have done. So thank you so much. We'll give you another round of applause. All right. Moving on to our 2023.
Mr. Chair, the board should deliberate on
Thank
the
you.
$3,000 donation.
Yes, yes. So thank you. With the amount of this
Thank you.
donation, I'll be looking for a motion to accept the $3,000.
Second.
All approved? Great. Thank you again to the Hampstead Mothers Club. Okay, now moving on to our 2023-2024 school board scholarship winners. So I'm going to present the recipients of that award. Just a few things to make clear here. The winners were not chosen by the school board. They are chosen by the Pinkerton Academy Scholarship Awards Committee. And this year's recipients are Pinkerton seniors Hannah Bernard and Adam Day. They were invited to the meeting tonight, however, both were unable to attend due to work commitments. Ms. Bernard will attend the Massachusetts College of Pharmacy in Boston to study nuclear medicine, and Mr. Day will attend the University of New England in Biddeford to study nursing. The scholarship checks are each in the amount of $1,500, and those will be mailed to them this week. Congratulations to both of them. Right.
Mr. Chairman, every few years we talk about raising this because of costs, extended costs, so I don't know if it's worthy of the board would want to talk about potentially raising this again. We typically if you go back, we typically do this probably every 3 to 4 years,
Yep.
On average, just because of the rising cost. I'd be interested in hearing others, but I'd be also interested in raising this to an even $2,000 for the future. So I'll make a motion so we can talk about it. So I'll make a motion to increase the scholarship amount for each, the boy and the girl award for future years to $2,000 each.
Second. All approved?
Where does the scholarship come from?
This comes from our budgets every year. So we haven't budgeted for, for next year, it'd be an extra $1,000 on top of our budget. We've already expensed, we'd have to find the $1,000. But I think, in my opinion, it's something warranted. I mean, rising costs, but also awarding kids like we just heard, a student going to study, nuclear medicine. Let's just say that's not cheap. And I think that we want to reward these kids that are doing things above and beyond what we expect of ourselves. So
Probably a couple of textbooks,
I think one.
right?
For nuclear medicine,
With
it's probably
pictures.
one textbook.
Probably, yeah.
But I don't know.
So
That's
it-
just my thoughts on it.
It is up to the board. Do we want to table it and, maybe bring it back up for discussion with the rest of the board members that might not be here, or?
If the board wanted to, we can add it to the agenda for the August meeting. Delaying a decision about future scholarship funding it doesn't impact the scholarships that have already been granted, so.
Right. I'm personally, like, definitely open to the idea. I just want to be able to run it by the rest of the board. So I think we can table that for our August meeting. That would be a great one to bring up. All right.
So we do have to take a vote, though, because we went into a vote.
We do have to take a vote, so we went into a vote. Okay, so,
Well, we can motion to table it, and then we don't vote on it now.
Can you motion to table after you?
There's already a motion on the table, so technically that motion.
But if you table that motion, you can vote to table the motion and then vote to untable it in August. You can vote to table, Robert's Rule of Order says you can vote to table it now and then untable it in August to talk about it again.
Or you can amend the motion to take act or deliberate on it in August.
yeah.
So I'll amend it to take it back, to not vote on tonight.
Okay. Moving on to the parental notification of truancy policy. So per the legal requirement of a 2-week comment period, I will open up the floor again for public comment before we consider approving a second read of this policy later tonight. So I guess we'll open it up to public comment. Okay, no public comment. So we will move that on to second reading for later tonight. And now I'll call up Superintendent Thompson to lead us in the presentation on the 2023-2024 strategic plan deliverables.
Yeah, I will take this. All right, so tonight I have the pleasure of reporting out on the strategic plan deliverables for the 2023 and 2024 school year. So this is that opportunity where we get to brag about all of the accomplishments of our team and of our staff and as a school district and all the progress we've made. And we have made progress. But I would be remiss if I didn't start the presentation by acknowledging this year has been really challenging for folks. And I can tell you that when I talk to my team and I talk to teachers, since me coming to the district, this is just, it's been a really challenging year. And I want to just acknowledge that right off the bat. First, we've had 2 staff members pass away. And schools, we're a family. And so the impact of losing a family member is just as real for us as school community members as it is, if someone were to pass away in your family. The thing that strikes me about this year too is we have a lot of staff with some really significant personal circumstances. We have a number of staff who are dealing with long-term illnesses and are trying to manage family and work. We have many staff members that I've talked to whose parents are aging and they're having to take care of them in ways they've never had to before. And at the same time, we also have a very challenging new population of students that's coming in. The students that enter our schools are different today. The needs that they have are very complex. And we're trying to adapt to that. And so if I were to sit up here and simply tell you about all of the wonderful things that we've done this year, that would be really disingenuous on my part. In fact, for some people, they consider the progress this year the fact that they survived the year. And we just need to acknowledge that. And I appreciate the fact that we have a very supportive board. And when I make comment like that, you guys listen, and I do appreciate that. But just know, it's been a good year. It's been a tough year. And so with that said, I don't want to overlook the fact that there really has been some really quality work that's been done. We have made some progress on our strategic plan. And so we want to take that opportunity to highlight some of the work that's been done. And so what I just said, I sort of describe in this little, image that I got off Google today. I think when we stood here in August and we talked about like, okay, here's all the things we're going to do. And in June, we're going to be that, arrow on the left. No, we really ended up on the right. So there have been some successes this year, but it has been at times a crooked path. It wasn't linear, but nonetheless, there's a lot for us to be proud of and a lot of successes that we have had as a district. And with that said, I'm going to turn it over to Jessica, who is going to talk about the core values of our strategic plan.
Good evening. These core values represent our district's highest priorities, and they are the heart of what we stand for. Communicate with positive intent, honor the child, relationship and team building, act with integrity, and a culture of collaboration. And you'll see these values woven through our reporting out today of where we're at in our priorities.
So our 5 strategic plan priorities have not changed. These are the same as last year, but just to refresh your memory, our first strategic priority is to empower students to become expert learners who have confidence to advocate for themselves and take responsibility for their learning. Our second priority is to examine our current programs and practices for relevance and effectiveness in an ongoing way. Our third priority is to foster positive school culture that honors the emotional well-being of our students and staff, of all students and staff. Our fourth priority is to improve communication for staff and community stakeholders. And then our fifth priority is to design learning environments to match our education philosophies. And we'll begin our presentation tonight of the action items with Central School. So, Dr. Freeman.
Thank you. So in the area of empowering students to become expert learners who have the confidence to advocate for themselves and take responsibility for their learning, HCS has continued our work on instructional rounds, and this year we were really focusing on personalized learning. It was our hope at the beginning of the year to implement 3 full sets of instructional rounds. This year we were able to accomplish 1 set of instructional rounds for all staff, a set of instructional rounds for administrators as we work to calibrate our new teacher evaluation model, and then a third set of the next evolution of instructional rounds called Lesson Design Studios that are universal design for learning team engaged in, where they plan a lesson collaboratively and remove barriers for the students in the classroom. In the area of fostering a sense of belonging through the school-wide implementation of classroom morning meetings, we do have implementation of classroom meetings throughout our school. Even our unified arts and special educators have incorporated these check-ins and opportunities to touch base with students as they get ready for learning and become aware of themselves as learners throughout their lessons. And finally, we were hoping to develop a protocol and resources to support developmentally appropriate student goal setting. With our instructional rounds, each team developed their own set of goals, and many of those goals focused on student goal setting. However, some teams also that were already experts in supporting students in goal setting went ahead and started to work on things like reflection of those goals, as well as collaboration. What are some ways that we can encourage students to collaborate more effectively? So all of those resources were put together into a shared resource for our staff, even though the focus of those shifted just a bit. I don't know how to use this. Nailed it.
Okay, at the Hampstead Middle School, I think we went ahead one.
Go back.
Yeah, we went ahead one. Okay. So at Hampstead Middle School, to empower students to become expert learners, one of the norms we did, I want to talk about the bottom one first, around empowering students to take ownership of their learning. So 3 times this year, there were extended advisory periods where students kind of reflected on the goals they had set and set new ones for next year. So this is a step towards building that growth mindset. So this was done with a protocol and kind of put our advisory block to use. The first 2 lines that are kind of merged together are around developing consistency in grading practices and in our expectations. So bringing the teaching teams into alignment for grading and also norms of what we think is good quality instruction is something we needed to kind of bring in an outside expert in. We contracted with John Vanderels, who's widely known as a kind of PLC guru in the area, and he focused largely on grading practices and expectations with our teams. So that work is still very much in progress, and I expect that to continue into next year. This priority number 2 around examining current programs and practices at the middle school. We did a lot of work this year with the science department. I'm very proud of the new scope and sequence that they have created for science instruction in grades 5 through 8, as well as creating a new template for our curriculum work that includes a lot of hands-on projects in science and hands-on labs and learning, as well as phenomena-based anchoring phenomena in each unit. So I've linked a little sample of 5th grade here, and those new documents will be uploaded to the curriculum website once the teachers have their final PD days in June. We have to continue this work at the elementary level. Teralyn will speak a little bit more about science. We also have to continue this work with Ventures. Ventures has begun this process of curriculum review, but as we unfold our MTSS-A model, we're finding Ventures to be a very healthy place for students to kind of on-ramp and off-ramp several times a year to get access to enrichment. That's still kind of in process. And math will be reviewed next year. So we've just started the conversations now about what math piloting projects or curriculums we'll look at for next year and how we will be vetting through those materials. Also this year, we successfully implemented our new educator evaluation model, which you approved at the last board meeting. And we have really started to get our MTSS-A building level data teams well underway. We still have quite a bit of work to do around MTSS-B for the future.
And at the central school, around examining our current programs and practices, similar to the middle school this year, our science curriculum team spent time looking at the current programs that we use. Mystery science is one of the favorites throughout the building, and aligning that with the standards, as well as looking at what STEAM activities, what experiential opportunities do we have for students in the area of science. And then they spent time aligning the science standards with our new literacy curriculum. There's a lot of nonfiction reading that really does align with the science standards. Our math team this year spent time reviewing and getting ready for a math pilot. So next fall, we will begin a pilot with 2 different programs, one called Ready Math and the other one called Eureka Squared. And we'll have teachers at each of our grade levels piloting those programs K through 4. Like the middle school, we've had a successful implementation of our new educator evaluation system. It has been a nice opportunity to really have authentic conversations about teaching and learning with our staff. I've really appreciated our end-of-year goal meetings that are very, I found them to be productive. And then finally, we have spent some time on our MTSS system. This year, we've implemented a Walk to Win model. So WIN stands for What I Need. And our teachers have spent time during 2 formal data weeks this year, as well as 1 additional check-in, reviewing data, grouping students based on need, and then students during various times of the day will walk to their various WIN groups and meet with a teacher who is prepared to deliver a lesson just for them based on what they need. We've implemented it in grades 1 through 4 for literacy and grades 3 and 4 in math. In kindergarten, they're still a bit young to be walking through the halls and meeting with different teachers, but the teachers have been doing a WIN model within their classroom, working with their paraeducators. I don't know how to make it go.
All right, in the next goal, we're taking a look at fostering positive school culture that honors the emotional well-being of staff and students. And in this realm here at Hampstead Central School, in the first area, we enhance school culture for staff and students through the implementation of restorative circles in all grade levels. We're very happy and proud to announce that all our staff have been trained in the practice of restorative circles, and they have been implemented at all grade levels as an opportunity to build community and good citizenship in our school in connection with students and check-ins. The next section is promoting the physical and emotional wellness of all staff by developing a series of wellness activities. I will say that our wellness committee has been very, very active this year. We've had a couple of different events, including a water drinking challenge, a wellness breakfast, and a Red Sox outing, which was a lot of fun. And through collaboration between HCS and HMS, we had the first ever Hampstead Central School versus middle school dodgeball game here in the gymnasium. And I will say that the middle school did win, but both teams did a good job, and we look forward to hopefully incorporating some additional events coming up in the fall. The last section of this goal is developing opportunities for student leadership, including monthly themed school-wide morning meetings. We have had a number of successful all-school-wide assemblies, most of them, or I should say many of them, student-led. We also have had a community building theme with our book vending machine, where every month students have the opportunity to earn a book by demonstrating good citizenship in the classroom and in the hallways and the school in general, including topics such as kindness, self-control, being helpful, or just being a good friend. So we really were pleased with that outcome this year. In terms of the school-wide assemblies, again, most of them were student-led, which was really awesome. The theme was community, a lot of community-themed events where oftentimes our student council members and other fourth grade students had the opportunity to present. We also had our We Deliver assembly to kick off our internal postal service, which was a huge success again this year and a lot of fun. We also celebrated Hampstead's 275th birthday on the actual birthday of January 19th. Well, not the original birthday, but 275 years later, that is, at school with a really fun Hampstead-centered and celebratory presentation. We also would like to say that we also have incorporated a assembly block for next year in our schedule to support more community-themed assemblies for our students. And lastly, on this theme, we want to give a special thank you to Sam Rodriguez, one of our fourth grade teachers, for her hard work with the Student Council and offering and developing opportunities for our students to develop leadership skills.
So I'm also proud to announce that as of April of 2024, all staff members have been trained in circles at the middle school. That includes professional staff as well as the paraprofessional and support staff. These circles are being implemented at all grade levels, more specifically in advisories. I've also had an opportunity to sit in on circles with students as we navigate some challenging issues that arise throughout the day. Throughout the year, the staff read and reflected on the book Hacking School Discipline. You can kind of see it a little bit larger on that right-hand corner. It aligns really nicely with our work around restorative practices in circles. Part of the reflection included talking about specific student vignettes, and the work next year will really be utilizing some of this reading to help update some of our disciplinary procedures and how we'll continue to work through the MTSSB process. Lastly, much like Mr. Schmidt said, there were several activities to promote the physical and emotional wellness of staff and students. The Amazing Race is one to highlight, the baked potato bar, the dodgeball game that HMS won. Many contests, the staff breakfast, bingo, and yoga are a few more to highlight.
All right, so for the middle school, when we talk about improving communication for staff and community stakeholders, the action strategy that was presented in August was that we would, improve community access and engagement through a series of district-wide events. Our commitment was to 4. I do think that we surpassed that, but there's still some work to be done. So the middle school did parent engagement evening on the movie Screenagers, so we had a screening of that movie that was followed by discussion. We also hosted what is hopefully the first of many parent volunteer orientations, which is something that we're going to move up and do prior to the start of the school year this year, just to give volunteers some of the training that they need to be successful. There was also a stargazing event here at the middle school that was open to families. We also had our STEAM night, which has been, a long-standing tradition, but to see some of the changes this year. One of the most amazing things about STEAM night this year was, first of all, more involvement with students and student groups, but also to be able to weave the celebration of the town's 275th birthday into a STEAM night. To me, they almost seemed incompatible at first, but then to see it in action and seeing the giving games and some of the projects that the kids had developed was just really, it was just really well done. The feedback from that event was very impressive. And then which has been stated a few times also, we've had our dodgeball game between the middle school and the central school. So, we can check the box on the 4, but our team has been challenged to, let's do more. Community engagement needs to continue to be a priority that you will see in next year's deliverables. Further develop school and community relationships through increasing volunteer opportunities. I'm proud to say that we have an army of volunteers. I'm going to say, and Melissa could probably correct me, but at this point we probably have over 200 vetted volunteers, well over, which is absolutely amazing. And when I look at that list, because you can, read their applications and see what they do, there's some very talented people who, we have people who are in the news industry, we have people that work for higher ed, we have people who are social workers, we have people who are in law enforcement, and we need to do a better job of engaging them. I put incomplete on here because I think that we have not done a good enough job of getting all the parents in to see the magic that this school offers, but also for them to share some of their expertise with us. So this is, it says incomplete now, so you know that this will be a priority that we will bring forward again for next year. And then I'm going to turn it over to Joe just to talk real quickly about a lot of the really great work that's going on in the IT department.
In the Hampstead Technology Group, we are continuing to address cybersecurity recommendations. My team and I are actually going to Concord, to the Primex facility, to do some training with the CISA group on the upcoming trends and attacks that are happening to other districts. So that's great. We're also going to go through all of our devices this summer. We collect all of the Chromebooks and all the staff devices and update them with the software and make sure everything is functioning properly. We're also going to be replacing all of our infrastructure, our switch stacks, and everything to stay up to date, which I've talked about on previous meetings. So it's just an ongoing, everyday thing, and I'm really happy with where we are as a team.
All right, and then at HCS, in regard to priority 4, this has been a really fun area to develop this year. We've also worked to increase the community access and engagement through those district-wide events. We had a wildly successful One Book, One School spring literacy event that was truly homegrown, from our staff putting that together to getting local people to come in and speak and participate. It was just a terrific success. Additionally, we hosted a Title I and ESOL evening in the fall, which was also a new event for us and a great way to build bridges with families that might not always come into school. Finally, we also had our K-Parent Night, our preschool night, as well as many unified arts performances throughout the year to bring folks into the school. One of the things that was really exciting was the redesign of the Hampstead Central School Lunch Buddies program. This year we hosted 4 events with over 100 participants between those 4 events. And next year we're looking to find ways to make that more of a regular opportunity for folks. That has, like I said, the parents enjoyed it, the students enjoyed it. The more folks that we can get in, the better it will be, because there are always those kiddos that are like, where's my parent? Which would be my own human, by the way. And so we've enjoyed increasing that communication for staff and community stakeholders.
The next goal, as you can see, is designing learning environments to match our educational philosophies. And at HCS, one of those pieces is developing programming to provide students greater access to STEAM activities. And I'm happy to say that we have certainly done that this year. Throughout all the grade levels, we've incorporated at least one, if not many more, new STEAM activities with the help of our science committee and many of our teachers in engaging with the STEAM theme. Our preschool youngsters got to build a garden in the back, which is growing and doing well. Our kindergartners learned how to use B-bots and programming. Our grade 1 students and grade 2 students learned how to do coding along with those B-bots. And also, too, we had a really awesome cooperative project between art and technology in the design of a huge map of downtown, well, I should say the center of Hampstead, which you can see a nice picture of there, with buildings and road maps. And those road maps are navigated by B-bots that the kids got to use while they were at the STEAM night. Many of our projects that the kids worked on over the year were showcased at STEAM Night as well, which was really awesome to see. And of course, this year we had the big eclipse, which we had many different events and activities that circled around the event of the eclipse. We also had the soil tent and many field trips to support the area of STEAM this year. Also, too, we had a district-wide participation in Hampstead's 275th birthday celebration. I spoke a little bit about that earlier, but we also had a field day just yesterday that had a theme of Hampstead's 275th birthday. The field day was a huge success, a lot of fun. Some events included dancing, tug-of-war, races, chalk drawing, etc. It was really an awesome event to see all the kids out there and having fun and engaging and enjoying their school community. Along that lines, I did mention earlier on January 19th, we did celebrate Hampstead's 275th birthday with an all-school assembly, which featured a really cool history lesson about the town and celebrating the town at large, along with a visit from Robert Morris from the Hampstead Historical Society. And what was the most fun was the whole event was culminated with a big singing of Happy Birthday to Hampstead at the very end, which was really fun. The last section of this goal is the comprehensive 5-year capital improvement and facility maintenance plan. We have been successful in creating that plan, and the plan was highlighted by Mr. Mackey, who has spoken in the past at a previous board meeting about that plan, and as I said, it has been successful in its execution.
So I know during our progress update that it was reported out about the 7th grade participation in Nature's Classroom and how that promoted outdoor experiential learning. I also wanted to highlight that recently the 7th grade also took a trip to Sunset Park, where they also had an opportunity to explore learning in a different setting. Much like Mr. Schmidt and Mr. Thompson highlighted their district-wide participation, a big highlight of that is Family STEAM Night and the integration of Hampstead's 275th birthday celebration. And then also enhancing student learning through increased participation with Pinkerton's CTE program and community partners. I want to thank the counseling team here at the middle school in helping to get the CTE van here 2 days this year to help grade 6 and grade 8 have an experience with CTE and the opportunities for learning that go with each. And again, reported out at our mid-year progress update that the capital improvement plan that Jeff spoke about in October.
All right, so, I really appreciate all of the efforts of this team, of our staff. There really has been a great deal of progress made this year, a lot of really great activities. Our school district is moving forward. And with that said, you've heard me speak a lot about, continuous improvement. That is the goal, to continuously improve. Even if the improvement are minor tweaks, at the end of the day, we want to be a little bit better than we were the day before. And so I just want to give you a little sneak peek of what next year looks like. So this is a very dangerous slide. And I say that because there's people at home that are watching this, that are seeing this for the first time. And, we want people to head off into the summer with, less anxiety instead of more. I also want to preface this slide by saying there's 2 really important pieces of data that are coming in the next week that's going to potentially change this list. And that is on Monday, there's a parent survey going out. The parent survey that will go out this year is more comprehensive than those in the past. There's want to get a lot of feedback on some more specific areas. Compared to last year, it was pretty general. We're still trying to work that out. And then also with a staff survey as well, where we'll get feedback from our staff. And, one of those questions will be about next year and what changes you'd like to see, how can we improve upon the school year. So I put this up here with some reluctance, knowing that the list will change. This list really is work that needs to continue, work that we've identified after the strategic plan deliverables were presented. So the first one is to work towards full implementation of an integrated multi-tier system of support. And we sort of rolled this out. And really, for those of you at home who don't do the ed speak, like, how do we systematically support all of our students with all of the supports that we have here? How do we be efficient about it? How do we be strategic about it? And I truly believe that as a school district, we appreciate the support of the board and the community. We have good resources. Could we use more? Sure. But using the resources we have, MTSS will help us to really systematize, create a system for how we use those resources. We dabbled in that this year. And as the board is aware, we had a consultant come in and evaluate our systems and identified we still need a lot of work. And so that's work that will continue into next year, and you'll see that in next year's strategic plan. Also, redesigning the teacher and support staff mentoring program. This is a priority for us. I have communicated to members of the board before and our leadership team the nature of the future workforce when it comes to public schools and teaching has changed significantly. And I can tell you that now what the norm has been is that somebody, a student goes to college, they get a degree, they do student teaching, they get a teaching certification, they find a job, and they work in public education for 30 years. That's not happening anymore. The pipeline to public education is drying up. It is a major issue that we have here in Hampstead and in public education in general. We need to adapt and change to that. So what are we seeing now? We are seeing individuals who are coming to us for second careers. You know, they worked in, for Fidelity for 10 years, and they want to try meaningful work. And so now what that means for our teacher induction and mentoring program is we need to adjust to that we're having people who are entering our field as certified, coming in as licensed professionals who have not taken educational courses. It is the reality of teaching, and our mentor program needs to be able to adapt to that. The other piece is our support staff. We have very talented support staff members here. Many of them have worked here for decades. Many of them are have tremendous work experience, college experience, degrees. We're pulling from those ranks now. And that is also through the Mary Ford Teacher Apprentice Program. You know, we're able, if there are paraeducators who would like to become teachers, we can make that happen. So that's a priority for next year, and that will be ongoing. Improve school climate and culture. I did not put these in any specific order, but if I had, I would have led with this one. Again, it's been a tough year. I've had a lot of conversations with staff members, particularly in the last couple of weeks, and parents. We need to make some improvements to our climate and culture. That is through, the wellness activities, making the work environment fun. It also comes with making our work environment safe. You know, we are seeing increased numbers of students who are acting violently. We have to address that. And that is not an overnight fix. And we also need to make sure that we're clear in our expectations with our staff, with our students as well. People thrive on consistency and predictability. Public schools, by their nature, oftentimes are not. So when we talk about climate and culture, it's not just the touchy-feely stuff, right? It's not just about the wonderful luncheons. It's really about making sure that teachers and students feel safe, they feel supported, and that the administration is there to work on their behalf. We need to do better next year. There's no doubt. Enhance staff and student wellness. Again, the mental health continues to be a significant concern. And the student that we see in front of us now, a lot of them, they're not ready to learn. And that's really tough as an educator to even say. But when you struggle with mental health issues, learning gets put a little low on Maslow's hierarchy. There are some important items that we are working on. We talked about hiring a support professional to come in and support our our student services department with mental health needs at the middle school. We have also talked about telehealth. If you're a parent and your child needs counseling or mental health support and you call a local provider, they'll tell you that it's 3 months before they're going to be able to see you. And if you want to try to get an appointment after school, you may never get one. So what we need to do is we need to accommodate students that need to have access to outside mental health supports during the school day. That's a work in progress. That is not easy. We're also in talks right now with the Center for Life Management to be able to provide a contracted mental health provider who would work on an insurance-based program to provide mental health supports. This is a model that I'm familiar with in my previous district, and it's a model that more schools are adopting. These things take time, and the board should expect that we will come back in the late summer with a plan for, okay, this is where we stand on some of these issues. We also implementing the new supervision and evaluation model, and I think you heard me say this at the last meeting. I calculate somewhere between 5 and 7 hours of total time under the Danielson model for teaching, for an observation. And it's sort of a manufactured thing when an administrator's coming into your room. You want to do your best. This new model supports teaching and learning. The entire process takes around an hour, and it's going to support the desire of our team to get into classrooms more, spend more time in the classroom environment, supporting teachers and students. And then lastly, increase parent and community engagement in our schools. We talked a little bit about that. We need to do a better job. There is magic that happens in this school. And on the occasion that I have the opportunity to tour the building with a community member or a board member or someone from another school, the feedback is always incredibly positive. There are stories every single day that are going on in this building that are not being told or shared. We got to get people in. We also, I have a friend who works in marketing, and he has remarked to me, he says, you know what the problem with public schools are? When you guys talk about engagement, you're counting on people coming to you. That's not how marketing works. In marketing, we go to them. And so, we need to do a better job of getting out into the community. The teachers in this district, they're rock stars in this community. So I think, getting more of our staff, more of our leaders involved in some of the community events, I think will create that engagement. We can't expect that they're always going to come to us. There's plenty of opportunity where we can go to them. So this is a sneak peek, and if you ask me in 2 weeks, hey, what are the priorities for next year? I may give you a much longer list, because I know that there's a lot of feedback out there that we're excited to act on. So at this time, I would ask, are there any questions that board members have about any of the deliverables that were shared?
For the math pilot, is the ESOL, our ESOL teacher going to be involved in the evaluation of the math pilot?
That is a great idea, Carl. So yes, Nicole Ponte's our ESOL teacher. She's on the intervention team and will get eyes on the program, but with that very specific need for students who are still learning English. That is typically a criticism of math programs, is it's language heavy, and therefore the kids can't show what they know mathematically. So I will absolutely involve her in getting feedback on it.
I know that one of those programs is highly visual, and I think
Yes.
that that's a positive.
Yes.
But yeah, I know from our experience in my district, that was super helpful. But yeah, on the assessments and in the idea of having a common language across teachers, not the exact same assessments, but everybody speaking the same language so that students don't have to relearn, I think that is the direction we need to go into, and I think that's like a great thing for the district. A bunch of stuff. Win time at HTS, amazing. HMS, setting goals, those are great stuff. Restorative practices, and for people at home, that's the idea that you don't give out a punishment and not worry about it. It's the idea of processing it with the person who gets a consequence and the community, because you're gonna have issues that are gonna happen, unexpected things are gonna happen. That's great practice, I love that. Mentoring, absolutely, is huge. I love that we're bringing back old traditions, continuing stuff, coming up with new traditions. I love the idea of having a tradition per grade is amazing. I would love to see a video of the staff dodgeball game for next year. I think that would be awesome. Maybe we could watch it live. Probably not have any, lunch buddies, field day, that's great. Asking people in the community of previous traditions that maybe you can bring back isn't a bad idea. And then something for the board to think about, this therapy dog at Pinkerton. Yep. I don't know if we'd want to have a therapy dog in the district, and I don't know if there'd be somebody, but I don't know what that thing is.
So it's so funny, Carl, because I was going to put the therapy dog in here. So since the, yeah, see, look at right there. Mr. Mayu is a great example of what's happening right now, and he does have a solid in. The number of staff who are either legitimately working to get their dog to become a therapy dog or have expressed interest. I kid you not when I say that there could be a point next year where the board comes and visits the school and there's a therapy dog in every classroom. And you know what? I don't know that I disagree with that at all. And you've heard me said it before. And I was with Mr. Mayu. We're standing in the hallway with the person with the therapy dog. And man, talk about an entry point with kids. Yep. You have a child who will walk by and even with your best intentions, will do good, and they move on. A dog, it's just an automatic entry point for a conversation. So we will have therapy dogs next year. I'm going on record as saying that. I will not commit to whether it will be Mr. Mayu's therapy dog or, someone at the central school, but we'll do it. Yeah, we'll do it. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I don't know what the logistics or liability is, but I'm totally for it as a school board member, and definitely have pictures and video, because talk about community engagement, that's the way.
I've met them at Pinkerton, the therapy dogs, and just students and staff, the feedback is just so overwhelmingly positive. So excited about that.
And that's all I got.
And
me,
I
I'll just
appreciate
say-
the comment, Carl, about the ESOL, because it demonstrates your knowledge and expertise in your field and the work that I know that you're doing to help inform us in ours, because, sometimes we don't look at, an issue from all perspectives, so I appreciate that.
And for me, I'll just say that I appreciate, all the work that you've all done throughout the year on trying to stay on task with this plan, which is no easy task. And then I know obviously gathering all of the data and the information to even present this to us is a task in and of itself. So thank you all for your work throughout the year. And I know there's still a lot of work to be done, but I think this highlights the fact of all the progress that we've made throughout the year. So great job.
Thank you. Anyone else? Mr. Smith, you seem to be writing feverishly. Oh, okay, all right, yeah. And anything else? So thank you for your support this year. We really appreciate it. We look forward to, the summer's a great time to recalibrate, do some planning, and to come back here. Before we move on, there is a problem with the video. We're on audio, but the video seems to be frozen. So while we transition.
Just a few minutes, we're going to go
Just need a couple minutes. We don't need to, we can still continue with the meeting, but just know we need to redo the video.
Sure. Thank you, everyone. Sorry for the delay on the video. Sounds like we are back in action here. Moving on through the agenda, Nicole Tomaselli is going to present the new professional growth model whenever she's ready.
Okay, thank you, everyone. So we'll be projecting this in a moment, but you have a copy of the Professional Development Master Plan. I handed out to you earlier. This document is a requirement of ED 512, which you may or may not know. We do need to file this after school board approval. We do need to file it with the New Hampshire Department of Ed and get their approval. This plan is a 6-year arrangement. Basically, it is a framework of how we will use professional learning over the next few years to enhance the capacity of our teachers, our administrators, our paraprofessionals, those participating in the teacher internships, those professionals on site-based licenses, those people who are coming to us as a teacher apprentice, and maybe a variety of other pathways that might come in the next few years. So it involves credentialing, it involves the CEU allocation of awards, and then ultimately our educators' renewal with the state to keep their licenses current. More than that, it also takes into account some of our beliefs about professional learning and also how we will utilize our newly created evaluation model and goal setting to kind of get our staff the most current best practice and training that we possibly can to keep them current with our student needs. So Joe has it on the screen now behind you. This document is a living, breathing document, so there are many pieces of this that I would like to amend probably over the summer and into next year with the state, and we can send amendments up at any point. There are also several ways that an educator can seek renewal. So this document outlines those options, although I would say probably with great confidence, 95%, 99% of our staff renew through CEU hours in option 1. To the teachers listening to this presentation, this document has 25 different types of acceptable professional development formats that begin on page 12. So if they are needing hours, there are many ways to get hours outside of workshops and conferences. Sometimes people do this by professional reading, participating in PLC times, doing curriculum development, doing examining student work. We certainly can use some hours doing some scoring of assessments and calibration. So there are many creative ways to get hours. Again, most of our teachers opt for number 24, which is workshops, seminars, conferences, institutes, and webinars, and they can accrue their hours that way. This document alludes to TeachPoint several times. TeachPoint is the software we use to track all of our hours. That may or may not change in the future, and if it does, I will amend it and send it back up to the state. We also have a glossary of terms that are connected to professional development. One of the biggest changes you'll see in the verbiage here is now it is commonly referred to as professional learning. The law still states a professional development committee, but so you'll see professional development committee in this document, but when we talk informally around here, we call it professional learning. But they're somewhat interchangeable. So I don't know if you'd like to ask a few questions or if you are okay, but I would like to seek board approval for our new professional development master plan.
I love the phrases. It's not just about what was done, it's about what was learned. It's about working to improve rather than trying to prove. And then also avoid creating a scrapbook and a steamer trunk. That's
Yes.
very awesome. Do you have specific people in each building that are going to help mentor explain this? Like, okay. And then do you have exemplars, maybe a video showing like examples?
Of all these different types of hours, we don't have a video. We might have some exemplars around. I would have to look. It has been a long time since I have approved anything other than CEU hours. A lot of times people will put in for CEU hours for even study groups and reading, and they'll be awarded a certificate. But we could create that if there were a need for it, or if there were questions with new hires, for sure we could find videos to support.
Yeah, I'm sure people have examples and just comfort
Yep.
level to, this is how you might go about it, because often teachers are honor students and want to get it very specifically correct.
Yes, they are.
So,
Yes.
How do new teachers or existing teachers know about what's there, what's changing? When you're talking about amendments, how does that get communicated through?
So this document will be eventually uploaded to our website once it's approved by the DOE. Amendments to this will go to our committee, and then the committee will redraft this and we'll send it to the department. So we will need to be forming a professional development committee that will kind of own the living, breathing version of this document once it's approved.
All right. And I don't know if it's best practice to have this included in the contracts as we're negotiating or not, but to have this reference, I think, would be important.
Yeah, and generally, when it comes to professional development, it is outside of the bounds of a collective bargaining agreement, because all of this is driven by Ed Regulation 513, which specifies very clearly, and I can send it to the board, what the requirements are. So if you were to go through this plan and put Ed 513 next to it, you'd see like, oh, we're trying to hit the requirements of the law. And I think part of the reason why districts don't include it in the CBA is because it's driven by law. And anytime there's a revision to the law, that supersedes a collective bargaining agreement.
Makes sense. All right.
And in regard to the amendments that you said you may make over the summer, are there any specifics that you're willing to share of what you might amend?
Yeah, so in looking through other models throughout the state, ours currently does not account for goal setting for paraprofessionals. So we do have a evaluation system for paraprofessionals, but I would like to develop the goal setting aspect of that a little bit more. Because as Bob spoke earlier, we have a number of paraprofessionals who are very interested in becoming teachers and growing their skill set. We're doing a great job incorporating them into the PD activities that we host and trying to schedule things during early release days when we know they'll be here. And more paraprofessionals than ever now have accounts in Teach Point. So they're accruing certificates, they're accruing hours. And this goal setting piece, I think, is very valuable. So I would like to include that, and it currently doesn't really articulate that. We also have evaluation forms that I feel like we could incorporate in here over time. Once, I think we need to live with the new model a little bit, and then see which pieces of it should be incorporated in here.
Any other questions for Nicole?
Will you have to vote on this?
You do have to approve it, yes.
Okay.
Yep.
I'll make a motion to approve the Hampstead School District Professional Development Master Plan for the years 2024 through 2030.
Second.
All approved?
Thank you, Nicole.
Good job,
Thank
Nicole.
you all.
Right. Cole, don't go too far. You're coming back up for the Hampstead School District Reading Program update. And just to give a little background, this was brought up, I believe, Missy, as a priority that we wanted an update on. So thanks for bringing that to the table, Missy.
I'm new, so I just want to get caught up.
I'm sorry, it's all cracked.
Being a new board member, I just want to get kind of caught up, because I
Sure.
know there's a new reading program this
Sure,
year.
and I apologize, I don't have a visual for you on this. So this was the first year of our new implementation of Wonders, which is a program we purchased last summer from McGraw-Hill has this program for elementary. We purchased it for K through 5, and then at the middle school, we purchased Houghton Mifflin's program for 6 through 8. So those are our Tier 1 reading instructional programs. We also did some program review last year to vet out what is going to be used in Tier 1, what will be used for Tier 2, and what will be used for Tier 3. The whole reason we approach this is because of the new knowledge we have around the science of reading. So as we were assessing students post-COVID, we are noticing that some students are really struggling to recover from learning loss. And that's not just Hampstead, that's throughout the country. Those states that have adopted programs that are aligned to the science of reading, which is a very comprehensive way of teaching reading, and I'm not going to go into all the details about the science of reading, but there's a reading rope that you can Google that shows all the different components of a really robust reading program. So we have decided to, and fortunately our curriculum cycle also, and our purchasing cycle also fell into alignment with this last year. So we were able to make a decision that was timely. We had a Journeys program that was sunsetting anyways. We did a pilot, investigated a few different programs in vertically both buildings, and landed with 2 programs that got really good reports on EdReports and also our science of reading aligned. Having said that, every program has its deficiencies. So one of the things we really wanted to build up was the phonics instruction at elementary. We know that kids who can't know their letter sounds and letter blends and have weak phonemic awareness, it becomes a decoding problem as they get older, and then they can't access higher levels of vocabulary. So we doubled down on phonics instruction at Central School, brought in additional Haggerty resources, and did some Haggerty trainings, as well as a new resource called UFly, which is from the University of Florida Learning Institute. Are you familiar with it?
So I was in a district that rolled out Wonders a couple years ago,
Yeah.
and some of the feedback was that it wasn't strong enough in phonics. So
Yes.
that district did UFly this year. So I was
Yes. Yes, so that is something our teachers noted during the pilot, is that Wonders has so many incredible tenets of that reading rope, but the phonics instruction they were concerned about. And they're very skilled at Haggerty and pretty skilled at, a surprising number of our teachers are letters trained. Carolyn. So letters is kind of a philosophy about teaching reading that we're very fortunate to have teachers who have been letters trained for years, and we have a tremendous amount of new teachers participating this year. The state is sponsoring letters training. We also have 4 administrators in the Letters for Administrators course right now, including myself. So we've known for a while how valuable phonics is in Hampstead. The challenge is to get it into every classroom systematically with regularity, you know, and make it fun. We don't want to do drill and kill for longer than we need to, but we do need to explicitly teach those phonemic blends. So the combination of Haggerty, sometimes during morning meetings, sometimes during ELA instruction, and then UFly as a tier 2 intervention has been incredibly powerful. And the preliminary reading scores are coming out. And I know, David, you asked last year, with this new program, will we see gains? And I said, no, it is unlikely. It's going to take time. Our teachers have to unpack this curriculum. We have to practice, you know, and sometimes the scores regress. But our preliminary scores are coming out right now from iReady. We won't get SAS for a while, and they're very strong. So we're doing a great job.
That was part of my question.
Yeah.
Can-
I would just, you know, I want to say a commendable appreciation to the teachers. I can't speak for other parents. I'll speak for my own. I have one child who came into the first grade not being able to read really well, and just thank you to the teachers and paras that helped. Now she's reading really great. And then I have got a child that's pre-K, and she's already reading. And she's been reading for the last probably 6 months. Came home reading a book to us, and, you know, so just wonderful program that you have now. And I appreciate all the hard work the teachers do. And it proofs in the pudding when you're able to, you know, actually put it to work. And it's also on the parents. We were reading to our child at night, having her read to us, you know, so it's not, it doesn't stop, you know, start and stop at the 4 walls of the school.
That's right.
So just want to say thank you.
Thank you. It is a community effort, and it is a worthy effort to have children who are proficient readers, because it is a gateway skill. It is a formative skill. Reading will be a barrier if they don't have command of it. So it is our obligation as a district to make sure these kids are proficient and equipped as early as we can. And then I, you know, feel strongly about proficiency being the bar, and so once we get there, we can disguise the limit. But we have got to get every kid to proficiency. The Walking to Win model at Central School, as Dr. Cheney pointed out, you know, this is hard for teachers to allow children to leave. They're little. They want them in their home rooms all day. But at the end of the day, we made lists based on grade level need. So that's a huge step forward for our teachers to look at trends across the grade, decide who is strongest at teaching, you know, comprehension, who's strongest at teaching blends, who's strongest at CVC, who's strongest at vowel teams, and let them go for a short period of time, get their targeted instruction, and then return back for the rest of the literacy block. I mean, the proof is in the pudding, and you will see improved scores. And so these are the steps that we've taken as a school community to make sure that literacy is a priority, and I think it's working quicker than I expected.
Yeah.
So, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Dion is going to join us for the grade 8 Chromebooks gift.
Yes, I am seeking the Hampstead School Board to approve the donation or the gift of the devices for the 8th grade. If you approve it, what we will do is deprovision the devices, so it basically wipes all of the data for Hampstead schools off of it, and then we will take the devices and put them in the front office, so the week of the 17th, which is next week, guardians can come in and pick up their kids' devices. And it's been a tradition. After the 4 years of use in the schools, they can walk away with their device that has been, you know, on our system, but now they'll be able to log into their own personal accounts and use it for whatever they choose.
Joe, in the past, what percentage of the students actually take it?
That's a really good question.
Roughly, I
I'd
mean-
probably say about 25 to 30%. If they do not pick them up, what we do is we take them and we use the parts to fix other devices. When we pick when we choose the Chromebook models, we make sure that the models use the same architecture. So like they share the same screens, share the same motherboards, so we can definitely utilize the ones that are not picked up.
Okay. I wasn't sure if we also donate out there to the community or anything like that for anybody that might, could support a family or anything like that, so.
Not typically. After 4 years of student use, the devices are pretty much, they've seen some better days, but it's also an item that, the kid may cherish.
Yep.
So.
Awesome.
I also like the idea that if they know when they're fifth graders that they get to keep it after they're eighth graders, then in theory they may treat it better.
I will, oh, got it.
I'll make a motion to allow for the gifting of the Chromebooks to the outgoing eighth graders.
Second. All approved.
Thank you very much.
Thank you,
Thank you, Joe. All right, Mr. Jeff Dowd is going to update the board on the HCS renovation.
Thank you, Mr. Kerberos. The HCS renovation, the the two classroom infill project is underway. I don't know if you've been in the back of the school. It's all fenced off, and that's per what Mr. Mackey, myself, and the construction team have agreed to for safety reasons. And the deconstruction, or I guess you get deconstruction of the existing cladding, I believe is pretty near complete. The shed that was there is gone. They were able to do a lot of that on Monday, which was field day, which was great. However, there is another piece that'll be coming up, which will be the concrete and asphalt cutting, which shouldn't take too long. But if they don't have their vendor lined up behind that to get on excavation and concrete, I'm hoping they're going to be able to align them so we don't have any more of an open construction site out there than we have to. So everything seems to be on track. We met last week. I'm pretty impressed with the team, I have to say. I think Mr. Mackey was impressed with the team. Bob, you some seasoned professionals on this construction project. So I'm very confident that we're able to get it done on time. And I'm hoping, and I can ask Dr. Cheney, if there's been any report of disruption from the work going on.
There was just a little bit on the first day for about a half an hour, but it's been pretty good since then.
A little bit on the first day, and it's been for about a half hour, and it's been pretty good since then. So I'm hoping that we can continue to minimize any interruptions to the educational environment and have this project really kick into full swing next week when students are off campus. Certainly.
Questions? Mr. Dowd, can you tell, really for the community, but for the board, what would students, parents, teachers, paras, admin expect on day one of school of what's going to happen from that day until those two classrooms are ready?
Question.
So we do have a plan in place to relocate some of the rooms that will be most impacted. However, it sounds like the commitment from the contractors will be that the rooms immediately adjacent in the 40s wing to the work going on in the 60s wing would be available for occupancy. We do have overflow plans, and if you'd like to share, Dr. Cheney, I would welcome you to do so. We have freed up and moved some space, and Dr. Cheney can probably fill you in a little bit more of the actual logistics. The idea being that if we do have busy days, that those classes can relocate, or some of the staff with students may be able to relocate to different areas. So,
if I can just ask before you talk with Dr. Cheney, just so Mr. Dow can think about this while you're talking, I think what I'm asking is more of what's going to be going on in those two classrooms from the day we go back in until it's ready, just to get an understanding of, like, when a child comes home and says there was noises, right?
Yep.
Well, is it noises because they're laying down the carpeting? Is it noises from the paintbrushes? I mean, what kind of things are going to happen in those 45 to 60 days that we're in school, and there's contractors in there? It's just, I think that's where my question is more. I would expect there's communication before school starts of what Dr. Cheney is going to talk about, but just to give them more detail of what parents should expect while their kids are in class.
and I believe we expect that that structure should be should be completed, not completed, but the exterior of it should be completed. The work would be going on inside.
Yep.
But between electrical or flooring, drywalling, painting, anything like that is going to have some noise, some impact. Let me be clear that when we do have a construction crew in there, our construction crew is vetted on site, and they have a procedure to make sure that everyone is vetted. And their access to that location is going to be from the exterior of the building directly in.
Yep.
We do expect that some of the trades will have noisier aspects, and we experienced that with the 60s wing as well. It was all inside
Right,
of the
screw
finished
guns, stuff like that, that
Yep,
would be expected. It's not like it's going to be a lot of hammering and et cetera, I wouldn't expect, but that's why I was asking the question.
Yeah, and it should be more of the finished work, but even the finished
Right,
work
the
is
finished work.
screwdrivers and,
Yep.
sawzalls or whatever they need to do to finish the work.
I mean, we've seen Mr. Mackey's crew in the school during school hours, not upsetting the teachers and students. They've been able to do things, so that's, I was expecting something like that with the finished work, but if not, we'll hire Mr. Mackey's team, so.
They do know that we do start school our start time at that school is a little bit later, and construction start times tend to be a little bit earlier.
Yep.
So they're aware that there's a preference, and they're aware of pickup and drop-off times, that there is a preference to get some of that noisy work done prior to school
Right.
starting,
Yep, that makes sense.
which is helpful.
No, like Mr. Dowd said, they've been terrific in communicating with us. They've been respectful of our arrival and dismissal times. And when we have events occurring at school, there have been a couple of noisy times. One of them coincided with one of our kindergarten performances, but it was quickly over, and it was some of the outside work. And as he mentioned, when we return, it'll mostly be indoor work, just those finished pieces. It will be disruptive to some degree, but like I said, they've been very respectful of understanding our schedules, trying to work before and after those main instructional times. As we've talked about before, art is going to be mobile for the first couple of months of school, pushing into classrooms, and we'll be utilizing the art room as a classroom for 4th grade. And the library will be moved to a 40s wing room, and as a smaller space, and we'll be utilizing the library side as a classroom, because I can put a full classroom number of children in that room, whereas I can't put a full number into a 40s wing room. And then as soon as those 2 new rooms are ready, we're going to move those classrooms back out, recapture our library and our art room.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And I'd just say thank you to everybody that'll be impacted for those 45, 60 days. We understand it's a little chaos, but the ends justify the means.
And I specifically I was able to pull up the schedule, just to give you on the day that our students return, the schedule would indicate that we are, well, not we, I'm not doing it, hanging gypsum, and that's going to take place for about a week. That starts on the 28th. And then the next phase would be for them to, on the 12th, for them to do the priming and painting.
Really noisy stuff.
And then, but, well, that we do get into a little, there's a finished mechanical on the 20th. There is finished electrical on the 20th as well. Flash floors, carpet and reseal flooring, final paint. So it looks to me, and I know that this came up in a previous meeting, like the real noisy stuff, that is the priority, so that when students come back, we can minimize that. And I've reviewed the plan with Dr. Cheney. I think it's really solid, but I don't think we could sit here and tell you that there won't be disruption. It's an active construction site. And I do appreciate the fact that Dr. Cheney's been very mindful in the planning based upon the 60s renovation. There were definitely a lot of feedback that we got about that project, that we have applied some of those same principles to this project as well, so.
Just one more suggestion is I think we should discuss as a board at some point, start to come up with what is the plan for after this. Is it next year, another submittal of something out of the reserves, or is it, a further year? What does that look like? Because, really the December timeframe is going to come before we know it. It comes every year. Every time we say, oh, we're going to do it a little bit, this, that, a little bit later, or whatever, it sneaks up on you. There's a lot of planning, a lot of discussions, and there's always seems to be some sort of communication that could be a little bit better, and so we end up losing a few weeks because of that. So I just put that on the forefront of people's minds that we should get in front of this summer versus waiting until August, September, when we're jumping right into budget season.
Good point.
We also have negotiations that are going to start up also, so it's going to be a busy fall.
Right. All right. Board members, any other questions for Mr. Dowd before we move on? Or Dr. Cheney?
I will say, Mr. Guerrero, if I could, we have another move that's going to free up some interesting spaces as well, and that is to have music go to the trailer outside, and that will free up both the music room and, I don't know if you're familiar with that space, but there's some interior, smaller offices and breakout spaces in there as well. So that'll help offload some of that, some of the burden from the classrooms either under construction or proximate to the construction. So trying to do the best we can to give options to get as far away from the noise as possible.
Right. And obviously, I'm assuming there will be, logistics involved with that of, moving students back and forth as we need to in the trailers. My concern would be like bathroom breaks and things like that, but I know that's all part of the plan.
I'm also concerned about the condition of the trailers. They've been abandoned for a while. They've not been used. Hopefully, we're about to hear from Mr. Mackey on the summer plan, so hopefully this is some of that to, go in there and make sure that that trailer is in at least a good enough condition for, 45, 60 days. But
I was actually out there.
Condition.
I was actually out there with Superintendent Thompson the other day. They're actually in way better condition than I thought they would be.
I toured them as well, and I was actually surprised by the quality of the condition that they were in, from what I was anticipating. So.
And one of the trailers has been in consistent use, not in a classroom way, but for maintenance for the old BZ room that used to be in the school is now out there. So they've been occupied, they've been used, they've been, people have been going in and out.
We ran into like 4 different staff members while we were out there. So, yeah.
The other trailer, well, I don't think we're going to be putting any kids in there, so.
Obviously, it's because Mr. Mackey's doing a great job as well, so thank you.
All right, moving on to the Hampstead School District Daily, 2024 Summer Facilities Project with Mr. Mackey. Come on up.
All right. And I just want to note something earlier was left out a few times. I was honored to be the MVP of the dodgeball game. Just wanted that documented. But I did promise HCS I would join whatever competition we have next time. I'm going to hop on their team. So
I asked the same thing, and I was told that I didn't need to show up that day.
Yeah, right. Anyways, yeah, so just a quick update on what summer's going to look like for facilities. The facilities department is going to have an extremely busy summer schedule ahead. We have a higher number of classroom moves this year at Central School, obviously due to construction and just, to help things work a little better, as well as our larger district-wide summer projects, yearly tasks, and the Central School Addition project. Currently, we're just trying to get things ready so we can hit the ground running once school is out. We are looking into possibly purchasing a shipping container to help clear out some spaces that house extra storage at the present time. This would aid in opening up some areas that make classroom moves happen a little bit smoother. We are in the process of going through, reorganizing, and cleaning out those storage areas, so time will tell if we do need to go down that avenue. It's not a overly large purchase. If we were, I'm confident that we most likely won't have to go there, but it is an option. All RFPs have been awarded. Those projects are scheduled or soon to be, as well as a few smaller ones. These include, but are not limited to, the following: polished concrete in the boys' locker room, replacing the carpet in the 7th grade classrooms, adding a ductless mini split in the middle school library and computer lab, yearly refinishing of the middle school gym floor, and lastly, the Ford truck has been ordered, and once we receive it, we will schedule a plow and dump insert to be placed in it. And to cap it off, all routine deep cleaning and general maintenance will happen throughout the summer at both schools, as we do juggle tough schedules and space usage from extended school year, Summer Learning Academy, and Hampstead Recreation. Those are a bit of a challenge for us because we can't get into a lot of rooms, and with a lot of moves going on, it's going to be awfully challenging. And I will also make myself available to assist in any way I can with the Hampstead Central School project. So that pretty much sums it up. And to tell you, the trailer condition is, for the year of it, not bad. We have maintained it through the years, and once we clear it out, we're going to give it a once-over. We're going to try to make it as comfortable as possible in there for music to go in. But it's it's in solid shape for what we have.
Okay.
We have treated it nice, and that area has been used constantly by staff, so it's kind of an area that's been, kept up to date enough. So, not ideal, but for what we have with the cards we're dealt, not bad. So, questions?
If we're looking for more storage, and I don't know if this is possible, but can we do I feel like an old-fashioned barn raising? Is there would it be possible if we bought the materials and had community members come in and just build a giant shed, or is that something that's not allowed?
So, like I mentioned before, we are going through everything currently. There has been a lot out there that hasn't been touched in decades. A lot of times when things go to storage, they do tend to go there to die. Not all of it. And fortunately, Dr. Cheney has reached out to the certain employees that are involved in the storage, their stuff out there, and they are currently, and next Monday and Tuesday, going to be going through it hardcore. And I have some storage out there collectively, and we've just been rooting through. I brought a couple of pieces here. I actually gave a portable science table to OT. One of the teachers caught me yesterday morning. It was so convenient. They're like, we need more counter space. Just want to know, you want to pick your brain, this, that, and the other thing. And I go, I got an idea. I've got something over there. I'll bring it over here. And they love it already. So they have plans to use it next year. So I'm trying to repurpose as much as we can, but we do tend to obviously keep stuff and forget about it once it goes out there. You kind of turn a blind eye to it.
Right.
But they are going through it, and I'm confident enough that we can fit it all on one side once we hammer down on it. So, yeah. And the storage container, I looked at $3,800-ish for a new storage container. It's not a huge expense, and that would last longer than a shed. And I mean, sheds obviously need a little bit more upkeep with shingles and paint and all that. But I'm hoping not to go down that avenue. So.
And a more serious note, should we have a plaque for who wins the dodgeball tournament with the MVP written on it?
I'm not against it. But
So Jeff, I do have just a quick question on, so in the past when we've had the DOE in town to evaluate our school systems, score us for, funding or reimbursements from the state level, they said we've done a really great job of maintenance, which I agree. I'm a fanboy.
Appreciate it.
Do you ever keep tally of the work that we do in the summer and what it would have cost if we didn't have the team here to do it? Because, the reason why is because we're constantly asked about, where are we saving money?
Right.
How are we watching what we're spending?
Mm-hmm.
And this is an area that is such an easy way to show.
Right.
Here's everything that Jeff and team do,
Yeah.
right? Here's what would have cost if we went outside, even if it's a ballpark figure.
Right,
I think
right.
it's worthy of communicating that out.
Right.
For a value add that, the community asks for.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think anything's possible. It might be a little tricky just because the amount that we do on a whim and, and so far.
The big projects.
Absolutely, yeah.
Because I know that.
We've done some flooring in-house, we've done a bunch of ceilings in-house, we've done a bunch of, whatever, tree removal in-house. Yeah, absolutely. It's something we could ballpark and, run from there, yeah.
So now when I get a quote for something I can do.
Right.
I'm like, I can do that. It might take an extra little time here or there, but I can do it and I'll save that money.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, I'm like, wow, I just saved myself $10,000.
Right.
So I think that'd be good to see that,
Yeah.
what that would look like.
I'm with you. I mean, I have a couple of really tiny projects that I'm able to sneak in this year because of, I usually buy excess flooring, attic stock, and ceiling tiles and whatnot, and I have I was able to snag some very, very inexpensive flooring, and I'm going to redo the nurse's office. We're going to do the demo, but I'm going to have them do my flooring company do the install in it. Yeah, you probably are saving $1,000 or more,
And Mr. Mackey, remind me, we also have some of your staff who have a professional licensure.
Correct. So we are very fortunate to have our groundskeeper, Al Dubois, who is actually a master plumber and certified gas fitter, and he will literally do anything for us. And I let him. I have a long history with him. I've known him since I was born. He grew up with my mother in town, and we both worked together for the town of Hampstead years ago, and he's just a major asset to the school. He's walked by one time, the central school kitchen has propane going to the stove, and he walked by and you could smell propane, but it's not uncommon because there's a little overflow, but it was a little stronger than he thought, and he goes and tests it, and sure enough, it had a bit of a leak, and he just grabbed his stuff and did it all, and I didn't have to get a actual contractor in here. We're very fortunate to have him. I've had him climbing down walls on the gang bathrooms over here, and where there's about 2 feet of room, and he's creeping down there to see what the leak's going, he's unbelievable. I can't speak.
Traffic control and carpool.
Oh, absolutely, traffic control. Yeah, I'll sometimes walk out of my office and I just see him on the roof. I'm like, all right, he must have seen something or heard something and gone up there. So it's we do. I do try to do as much as I can in house and to try to get your most bang for your buck. In all honesty, I mean, we are paying these employees, and we have a very, very good. I can't speak more highly of the crew we have for facilities. I know other districts struggle to maintain their crew, and we have people here from 7 years, 18 years to 37 years. They've been here, they want to be here, and they appreciate being here. So.
Jeff, I'd like to, invite you back to our August meeting so you can give us an update on, what was done over the summer. But I think that would be a perfect opportunity to kind of review that value add of, look at how much we saved. Like Dave said, even just ballpark estimates.
Right.
I think that's just a great opportunity to present to the public, especially as we approach the budget season. Just kind of laying that out for the public is great.
If I could, Andy, also recognize the unprecedented amount of work that we're going to have going on this summer with a number of classroom moves, a number of moves with our external trailers, the amount of work that our crew is going to be undertaking, the appreciation that I have for their efforts in doing it, the care that they take in doing that work, the pride that they take in doing that work. It needs to go recognized. I know they're going to do a great job this summer, and I recognize that it's going to be a challenge.
And it is going to be a challenge. I even had 2 employees over there, actually 3, I had one today, bring up how, we do have to juggle. We have Summer Learning Academy and ESY there, and they uses up the whole first floor of the central school for the entire month of July, and we have 7 or 8 moves just on the first floor, so we can't get into those rooms to move them until August, and I only have 2 weeks in August to do it. We still have to clean, we have to, once we remove stuff, that's where we find the damage on the walls or whatnot, that my maintenance crew can go in and do it. So I do have a few employees over there that are a bit nervous on not being able to fulfill, our usual duties. But unfortunately, time will tell, and we're going to do what we can with what we have, and unfortunately, that's just how life goes. So. Yeah. All right, thank you.
Thank you. All right. Superintendent Thompson is giving us an update on the daily sub rates.
All right, thank you. So I'm looking for board approval. In your packet, you will see this is my recommendation for the sub rates for the 24-25 school year. Just real quickly, so our non-certified substitute teachers would receive $137.50 per day. If you are a certified teacher, then that amount is $150 per day. Substitute nurse rate, $268.75 per day. Para-educator is calculated hourly, just because they're not salaried employees, but the hourly rate for a full day of work would be commensurate with a full day of substitute teaching. So that's $19.64. Secretary substitutes is $9.20 per hour. And then we have a great bonus system where every time you've completed 5 days of subbing, you'll get an extra $50. And those don't have to be consecutive days. So my recommendation at this time is that we maintain these rates. I would be open to answering any questions. I can tell you, because this question does come up, is how competitive. I did a very thorough analysis last year. I didn't do it to the same extent. I did ask a couple of districts, and we are very competitive with our rates. And I also want to say, and I've commented to the board before, what really has saved us and helped us out in the last couple of years is the college students, former students who come back here and are just excited to see teachers. And in fact, several of them are children of staff members. And I would actually say that, it's through them coming back that we've able to retain them in other ways for other types of work. So I don't know if the board has any questions.
Board members, any questions on subboards? And Bob, correct me if I'm wrong, but since we're keeping the rates from last year, we don't need to make a motion to approve, correct?
I would defer. Melissa, what do you think?
We have to, that's the arrow.
I would venture to say that, no, you wouldn't need to make a motion unless the superintendent was specifically looking for that. But if you're not going to make any changes, then just the discussion is okay.
All right. Board members, any final questions on that? Okay. Moving on, Mr. Dowd will give us an update on fund balance retention.
Yes, so I have a couple things here, and when we look at fund balance retention, one of the things that we're going to look at is an update of our year-end budget actual projection. Before we get to that, you have a memorandum in front of you dated today, June 11, 2024. The year-end budget actual projection reflects the proposed budget transfer request that I have, which is to transfer $35,000 from Pinkerton, from tuition and special education to tuition Pinkerton, basically from our special education tuition line to our regular education tuition line. I believe that we may have over transferred earlier in the year, and our numbers are coming in a little more favorable for special education. So if you have any questions, I'm happy to address those. Otherwise, a motion might be good to dispense with that and be able to take a look at the year-end projections and talk a little bit more about the fund balance retention.
I'll make a motion to approve the transfer as stated on the memorandum dated June 11th, 2024 from CFO, BA, and HR Director Jeff Dowd.
I'll second that. All approved?
Perfect. Thank you. So you have the year-end budget actual projection, which now reflects that budget transfer that you've just made. I'd like to get back to the year-end projection and first discuss and refresh everyone's memory as to what the fund balance retention is and what our max balance retention would be. So you can see at the bottom of that document, which may not be showing up too well on the screen, behind you, the question is, what is fund balance retention? Per statute, it allows school districts to retain a portion of unused year-end unassigned general funds. In Hampstead, it's up to 2.5% of our net assessment for use in certain contingency situations. The amount lapses annually and has to be renewed every year. This is not the capital reserve, and this is not any other type of separate fund that we have. This just simply reflects an amount that the board elects every year to hold back in the event that the district has and needs to run into a contingency fund. The Department of Education had set out some rules surrounding the use of that contingency fund. They've lessened those rules, but really those funds would be utilized in the event that we have a situation where we've run out of budget, we have a roof collapse, we have some emergency, we have something come up that we don't have the funding for. We would have to deal with the expense from a budgetary perspective, but at least the funding would be there. That money gets released at the end of the year. So with that said, it may make a little bit more sense to, and actually let me just say that our max fund balance retention would be 2.5% of our net assessment for 23-24, which would put us at about 700,000, let's say. So looking at the year-end budget actual projections, you'll hear me say it, and you'll hear me say every time, we have an expense surplus, theoretically, and a revenue surplus to come up with our gross estimated surplus. So between the expense side and the revenue side, the expense side will have, I would guess, conservatively about 342,000, and on the revenue side, about 633,000, which gives us an estimated gross surplus of 975,000. This board retained 500,000 probably at this meeting last year, voted to retain that. That will lapse That will expire unless it's renewed. And that would leave us with about $1.475 million in unassigned general fund balance. And you can see we haven't had too many changes to, actually revenue I don't think has really changed much at all. Expenses haven't changed much at all from the previous review that I think we had last month or the month before. So I'm often conservative on these, but we can have some exposures even this late in the year, depending on what comes up. So we'd be looking at, again, $975,000 between expense and revenue, which I'll say it's a surplus. Really, it's just a favorable spend or favorable revenue to what we had budgeted. And we'll have $500,000 released from that fund balance retention. So if the board were to vote, I'd ask you to take a look probably first at the year-end projections. Let me know if you have any questions. But the board typically would vote to retain an amount that would be withheld, not returned to the taxpayers until the following year.
Mr. Down? The capital reserve that was approved by the voters, is that already factored in here or not?
No. No. So your fund balance retained would come out first. And then I believe that warrant indicated that $150,000 would go back to the taxpayers, and then the capital reserve would be taken out, or would be allocated to the capital reserve fund.
Right. So I just want to put on the board members that we did have a capital reserve that was approved for above 150. And do you have handy what we voted on in the past 4 or 5 years?
No, I don't, but you've been in about this range, I believe, nearly every year. I believe we've worked up to it a bit, and I apologize for that, David. I should have that. But you're at $500,000 in the current year.
Yep. And can you remind the board, it was $1 million that was voted for capital reserve, correct?
Correct.
Yes.
So if we were to, just make sure saying this out loud, if we were to look at, you're saying it's a total of $1.475 million.
Mm-hmm.
Minus the 150. Now we're looking at $1.325 million available. And then we as a board are looking to say, you know, how much of that are we looking to go into a fund balance retention versus going into the capital reserve, essentially?
Right.
Out of that 1.325. Because by this math, since what was voted on, you can take off $1 million and we have $325,000. Unless we go more than $325,000, what gets put in the capital reserve is less than.
So,
does that make sense to everybody?
Can we retain it until the end of next year and then move it into capital reserve? Okay, we have to do it all at the same time?
Correct.
Okay.
It's only at the end of this year, what is left moves to capital reserve. So I think I've got questions before I could even think about what it would be, and I would like to ask Mr. Mackey to come up, as I think he's the best voice of some of the questions I'm going to be asking. But
And if I could address your question, Carl, in a sense, that money when it gets released at the end of the year, it becomes part of that general fund surplus that could be applied to capital reserve.
And in this case, we're talking about the $500,000 from last year that will be released and become eligible.
Right.
Okay.
So whatever we say I'm just going to say, let's say we vote on $500,000 for the fund balance retention. Yep. If we don't use any of that, well, we'd have the same conversation this time next year.
Right.
That $500,000 would be on top of anything that's, extra, estimated return to town.
Yep.
You don't see it up here, it might be cut off, but, so typically we talk about this, Mr. Mackey, for fund balance retention is some of the emergencies or, two type of emergencies really. Facilities, non-facilities is what we've talked in the past.
Yeah.
for the facilities, is there anything keeping you up at night right now that you would say, and again, I don't want to sit here in a year being like, you didn't say this one, you didn't tell us about that.
Yeah.
But is there anything right now that you think about, like, school board should really be saving more money for this, or school board needs to think about this?
The two big ifs for me, and they're the same one at each school, it's always the septic. And we know the central school one is old. We have had it tested multiple times, but they can only go so deep in the testing. So, and it has come back really well, but that's probably the one at each school that it's just the most unknown. Everything's underground. We obviously keep up with, our pump stations and we have inspections done, but it only dives so deep. So I mean, and those are two big ticket prices. We'd have to obviously have them engineered, and once put in, that's another hefty price. So I would say those are my two.
So both of them?
Correct, both, yeah.
And if you had
they're
to
both
estimate-
getting up there. That one's obviously older, but this one's not too far behind it, so.
And ballpark estimate on
Oh, I wouldn't even know, to be
Re-
honest.
replacing-
Yeah, because
replacing
after
one.
engineering, and it all depends on size-wise, and obviously we're now making the building a little bit bigger, so they might make technically a bigger septic. Yeah, I mean, you probably could be around $500,000, all said and done, it could be a little bit, could be a little less, could be 300,000. It's hard to say, especially what we decide to go with. I know there's been other options over at Central School where we almost want to have one of our sections be a different type so we can pave over it. It kind of there's a lot of factors into it, so it's hard to say.
And can you remind the board members that weren't here, and maybe it's just Missy, I think Carl, you were here, but what the previous inspector had said about when they did, I know they didn't do a full inspection, can't go deep enough.
So that's just it. They dug under it. We do have a stone and pipe septic, which is a good thing. They last a lot longer, and the material was very clean. We ended up having to do an inspection because a section had got washed out. Water was sitting on, if you're familiar with the Central School, they have a play multi-purpose field. It's not really designed to be that way, and they had it all framed in, and they brought in infield mix, and they just put it there. Well, water kept kind of settling, and it kind of gave way. Well, septics are a big filtration filter, basically, to the earth. It just gave way, and that we thought it had failed severely, but it was because the water sat on it, and it just did its job. Everything went down, finally. And I had a couple of septic companies come out, and they dug, they said, everything looks fantastic. So, but they can only go so deep. We don't know what the pipes are looking like. They just know what the stone, the sand, and everything else, what condition that's in, and it looked clean. So it was a positive for how old it is, but a lot of unknown.
Yeah, that was a really scary text message.
Yeah, that was scary walking up to it. So, yeah.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, so those would be my two, if I would say anything, and it's not a cheap purchase, but there's a lot of factors into it.
Can we use the capital reserve for that? Or is that?
Well, that's my next question to Mr. Dowd, actually, so nice job there, Carl.
So it's a good question. I don't necessarily think that that's really specifically what the capital reserve was laid out for. But you have to remember that this board is the agent, or are the agents to expend on that fund. So if we needed to, you would have the authority to be able to do so. We have a little bit of an issue of the expense side of it, which we could probably deal with. But certainly that would be the case. That I don't see why it wouldn't apply.
There's a process that we could follow if needed.
Correct.
To use the capital reserve for something like that.
Yep.
And can you remind us, so let's just, for easy numbers, let's say we're putting $1 million into the capital reserve. What do we estimate capital reserve is going to be after these two additions, these two classrooms?
I think we're going to be up there. We'll be back up to like the $2 million range, closer to $2 million.
Just over $1 million?
$2 million.
$2 million.
Yeah.
Okay.
And if I could just add, so, when we talk about fund balance retained, it's like this, almost like this insurance, right? If we ran out of money, we can dip into this account. And the examples that we use are pretty consistent. We talk about the roof collapse, we talk about the septic, but we really need to also talk about special education because, our budget, we're running tight this year, and it is because of the increase in costs in special ed, even with really solid oversight and management of that department. And I say that because we have some out-of-district, there are out-of-district placements with transportation that a new student could move into the district, and it could cost $300,000. So, and I would contend that is maybe a more realistic unanticipated expense than maybe the roof or the septic. And I'm going to knock on wood so that none of these, none of these things happen with our facilities. But so the unretained fund balance, if we were to exhaust all of our budget and we were to need to have additional funds, we could use that $500,000. And I will remind the board that more than one school district was in the news this year when it came to the management of funds. So it's just a consideration for the board.
There is the emergency funding for special ed in a one-off year though, right? If you have somebody move in.
No, we have funding in special ed, like Jess had talked about it at the previous meeting, but the idea of being able to seek any like additional reimbursement from the state I'm not aware that that's a viable option. So I put that out there, that budgets are getting, I just had this conversation with Andy before the meeting, like the budgets across the state, we're seeing a decrease in federal funding. In all of our federal funds, we just receive allocations, and we're seeing an increase in the number of students in special ed and the cost associated with those services. It makes me nervous.
I agree with you, Mr. Thompson, because, if you look at the last couple of years, we've run on a budget that our expenses have been about, I think we've had leftover around 8-9%, about the 8%, I'd say, give or take a few percentage points. This year, if you don't count the fund retention balance, we're at 2.7-ish%. With the fund retention in there, it's up to about 4%, right? So we are running lower than we have in the past, which you would think with zero-based budgeting we would. So
yeah, but I don't think we can take credit. I'd love to be able to take credit. We're running a tighter budget, but it really is because of these increased costs.
Right. I think that if we're keeping around that 3%, we're returning back, or we're not using 3 cents for every dollar. I think that's a pretty good target. If I was to say as a single board member that having about a 3% is probably where you want to be. You don't want to be saying, well, we didn't spend $10 million, right, that we asked for. So I also don't think, coming back to this, my opinion is we don't want to have nothing there, but I think that we have enough of a cushion of capital reserve as well, that we don't have to do what we've done in the past, which was $500,000, $560,000, $600,000. Those are the numbers I remember when I first came on the board. My suggestion is we don't need something that high, because we now have a bigger capital reserve than we ever have. And I'm just giving more history for some school board members. When I first came on, our capital reserve was $300,000 as what was in the bank, essentially. It was small. Wouldn't always cover a roof or whatever else, septics, etc. I think with the $2 million upwards of. Just roundish numbers. I think that we don't need to retain another $500,000 on top of that.
So what are you thinking? To keep $1 million for cap reserve and then 325 and
my opinion would be like retain 100,000, so that way it's always there as history that we always do retain just a little bit just in case of something, but return the other. If I'm doing my math again, 1.475 is the total. If we retained 100,000, and then the 150,000 goes back to the voters. We keep $1 million, and then the balance, which would be about 225,000, goes to the voters. It goes back to the voters. So my suggestion would be keep 100,000. We've got almost $2 million in capital reserve. We don't have to get greedy.
But we can't use that for special ed.
Yeah, 100,000 seems low to me.
Yeah, but again, we're running a 3% return right now.
So where would we get the money though if we got this mythical special ed student for $300,000 next year?
That's what I'm saying is like this year, if you look at the very top, $975,000 is the surplus. So if we got a student at 300,000, as it typically is, that 300,000 would come out of that. So
the revenue though.
What's that?
I'm more reticent about the revenue because that's not necessarily
given.
Yeah, the expenses, yes, but
a big chunk of our revenue surplus this year was from favorable adequacy aid above what we had budgeted, which just happened late in the process.
Yeah.
So that would be my suggestion. I mean, and we know, as we've talked in the past, you know, we're a community here, and there's things going on in the community other than what we're doing, and us saving $1 million here and then another 100,000 there, you know, I think we're doing all right, in my opinion. But what are you thinking?
But I do agree that, you know, I think making special ed a priority and setting aside funds that are usable in the event that something like this occurs, I just want to make sure that we have that available to us, and that you know, ultimately we have the funds moving into the next school year to make it a priority in our district.
And I don't want to have to, if we have the mythical $300,000 student to have to cut other stuff and then start rolling back things like the positive momentum in the district.
So is there a middle ground between
$1 million for cap reserve and then 200,000 withheld or retained? I don't know.
Dave, would you be favorable to that?
Yeah, that's fine. I just want to make sure that we're thinking, you know, we're
No, I
looking for
appreciate
support.
the history and the
Well,
perspective, and
well, it's more, you know, we want to make sure we're continuing to get support.
right.
The community that's voting for things that we want, we have to think about what's in best interest for everybody, including them.
Right. But I honestly think, you know, if you poll the community and you look at, you know, tax bills and what we are spending on special ed transportation and those types of things, like it is on people's minds as of how much we're spending on this. And I think,
Well, I guess, Mr. Dowd, you know, when you're looking at, you know, continue to look at what we voted on for, you know, as a community for the budget for next year, are you already seeing signs of transportation going up, special ed going up, tuition going up, that we need to account for that?
I think to some degree, yeah. I am seeing higher expenses in those areas and in ways that I hadn't really imagined.
And I think it's important to note, too, that the new fiscal year, so FY '25, which will start on July 1, that was approved by the board after the public hearing in January. Any unanticipated expenses from January to June 30th are still unbudgeted for in next year's operating budget. And
Well,
we
that's what I'm asking.
can make adjustments to go back and look at that. But so we enter the new fiscal year with unanticipated costs that we now know of, in addition to the unanticipated costs. Now, I have sat with Jessica in reviewing the budget, and we talk about zero-based budgeting. That full principle doesn't apply to student services. Like, we have to anticipate what we believe the rate increase is, but it was more than we had expected. So that's the piece that worries me.
And that's what I was asking, is are we already seeing, and what are they?
Yeah, and I know that this year, we talk about, you know, unanticipated costs with contracted services was a big piece of it. I don't know, Jessica, if you want to add to that at all, or?
Yeah, so as Mr. Thompson was saying, in terms of contracted services, with the increase in referrals and evaluations needed, we'd had to increase contracted services for school psychologists. And in doing that, we've anticipated that we're going to need at least an additional 2 days per week of contracted services to offset all of the additional referrals and then the reevaluations that come with all of the students that have been eligible. So that was not something that I anticipated last October that we would need. And as I think I showed the numbers at a meeting a few months ago that we processed over 130 referrals, and those are just initials this year. So that in itself is almost two, I would say almost two full days worth of work. So that wasn't something we had anticipated, but we'll be looking to contract for in the fall. In addition to that, additional increases in OT services. So we've had to contract with additional OT, and then some increased needs in the preschool have also, that came after January, require us to add additional consultation services as well. So those are all unanticipated costs, but we now can anticipate going into that they'll be going needed for the 24-25 school year.
Thank you.
Are the referrals for K-8 or is that K-12?
We are responsible for referrals pre-K to 12.
Okay, so that includes Pinkerton referral, okay.
Yep.
All right.
Yes, we are responsible for conducting all of our evaluations for our students referred or in the reevaluation process in Pinkerton, yes.
And I don't have last year's breakdown precisely, but the revenue, I'm very happy to take whatever we can get. But as we're conscious of the voters, and we want to have our budget as tight as possible. The gap on the expense side has gotten tighter and will be tighter, I think, this year than it has been in the years past. And we know that there are already some things out there that are perking up that may eat away at what we hope to have. So that gap in expenses we're getting much closer to budget, which is great, but.
Where my head's at, based on the information that was just presented from all parties, I'm leaning more towards the 200,000 to possibly to 250,000 in the fund balance retention. What are anybody else's thoughts? He's nodding.
I was going to rock the boat and say 300, but 250 I could settle.
I feel like if we're going over 200,000, we should be pulling it out of the capital reserve. And I don't want to do that, but we don't have to go up to $1 million for capital reserve.
Yeah, I wouldn't, I'd be okay with 200,000 and not more. Because again, if you look at this year's budget, again, we've got almost $1 million that we didn't use.
Okay.
So if this happens again over the next year, I would hope that our budgeting is good enough that we're going to cover most, if not everything, and just have that, up to 200,000 buffer.
Okay. So I will make a motion to set the fund balance retention at 200,000, the total amount to be in the fund.
I'll second that.
All approved?
And we still have to do capital reserve too, right? No? Okay.
No, capital reserve is already taken by vote, so whatever we have left, we have left.
Right.
Because we're getting closer on these things, and it's been the tradition and history of this board to take the fund balance retention at this meeting and not in like an August meeting when we really have a very good view on it. And I would say that if we might want to take a look at it in future years, but I have our prime month for our audit firm to come in is August. That's the prime month. If I can get them in August, that's great. This year, they're going to be in July. They'll be here July 24th. So this board won't be meeting again until after they've already been here. So otherwise, I would say if it's this close, we really want to be able to manage it as best we can. But we're really good to be able to work with actual numbers, which you can do. But this year, because I do have audit coming in, really as long as it's done before I do my state reporting and due, I think, September 1st, we're good. But just keep that in mind. I appreciate it, and if it's something that we need to revisit, maybe it's something that we could do and just make audit adjustments with audit before state reporting.
Okay. Well, I appreciate everyone's perspectives on that. Thank you, everybody, for sharing. All right. Moving on, the suspension authorization. So, reviewing this annually. So outlined in RSA 193.13, this basically just authorizes the superintendent to suspend students beyond 10 days as outlined in that 19313 policy. So I will go ahead and make a motion to authorize the superintendent to suspend students beyond 10 days as outlined in RSA 19313.
Second?
Any questions? All approved? All right. And now moving on to wrapping up the superintendent's evaluation. So the board voted to approve the superintendent's written evaluation per procedure CBI-R. Additionally, the board voted to approve a 4% merit increase to Superintendent Thompson's salary next fiscal year effective July 1st, 2024, as well as a 4% performance cash bonus payable to Mr. Thompson on July 1st, 2024, as allowed per his 4-year employment contract with the Hampstead School District dated September 12th, 2023. And I'll just personally thank Mr. Thompson for all his hard work with our district. You know, there's lots more work to be done, but you know, you show up every day. You're a physical presence in the school. You're engaging with the community constantly. So just I want to commend you for all of your efforts in making us the district that we are. All right, now for policies, second reading. So we have our 6 policies for second reading. JH had to do with the student attendance, absenteeism, and truancy. We opened that up for public comment earlier, and there was none during this meeting. GBEBA has to do with the staff dress code. JC is student performances. JICH has to do with student drug and alcohol abuse. IHAL is teaching about religion, and JIH interrogations and searches. Important to note on number 6, JIH, there was additional language added as a result of the first reading by the board at the May 28th meeting regarding student searches. So board members, go ahead and give those policies a look and feel free to ask any questions.
Make the motion to accept the 6 policies as stated.
All approved. All right, so this is a little housekeeping item here. So since policy BEDH regarding public participation at board meetings was updated in February to reflect the 30-minute public comment period mandated by the new legal requirement, this means that the public comment sign-up form should also be updated. So this is just a procedural document requiring people to fill out the form in order to publicly comment during school board meetings.
Just a real quick question. I thought that the public did not have to fill out a form. I thought that was part of the policy, the statute, the regulation. I thought that was recommended but optional. Do I remember that right, Melissa?
We do have the policy in the packets. See if we
And
can find
I
that.
do believe that we had discussed that we can ask.
Right.
And if they choose not to fill it out, we would still honor their request under the language in the statute.
Right.
But as a matter of sort of best practice, having that record would be helpful.
Right.
Are you seeing something, Mr. Smith, on the form that should be?
No, no, I haven't even got to
Optional or
that yet.
something?
I was
Okay.
just going to, just because I thought I heard Chairman Andy there say that it's a requirement or that we'll be required to fill out the form. But I just wanted to make sure to clear that up if it's not correct.
It is not a requirement. And if you, I can pull the statutory language if you want, but
Okay.
But again, we can ask.
We can ask.
Yeah, and I do think as a matter of record, we should have it, but
I just
yeah.
want to make sure
Yep.
that we never state that it's a requirement. I want to make sure it's not in here somewhere that says
Yeah.
you're required to fill this out, but more that
Yeah.
it's a request of the board, but the statute states optional.
Yeah, I don't believe it's in there as a requirement.
Okay.
I mean, the 30-minute public comment period is mandated.
Yes,
That's the requirement.
correct. That's
but
a requirement.
I don't think that this form could be forced upon anyone to fill it out, but they could still be allowed to speak.
Hopefully that helps.
Yep.
Okay.
No, I appreciate you asking questions to clarify that.
Do we have to vote on this, Andy?
Don't think so.
So I think the board should vote on this, because at first I was just going to go ahead and make the changes
Yeah.
for the school board until I saw the very small writing at the bottom where it said it was approved by the Hampstead School Board on October 23rd, 2012.
Right.
Okay.
So I do think that the board would need to vote to accept the changes that are proposed in the packet. And they're very minor changes. It just basically changes it to 30 minutes is provided at the school board meetings for public comment. And it takes out the part when this wasn't a mandate, because this form was back in 2012, before public comment was actually mandated, and that's a
Yep.
new requirement per law.
So I do see, if we look at down below, it says individuals wishing to speak at this meeting should complete this. I think we should change that to are asked to complete. Because if I'm reading this as somebody that doesn't know, I'm reading should like it's mandatory. I know the language, words matter. So I'll make a motion to accept with the change to the bottom that says are asked to rather than should.
I will second that.
Or
Any other
requested, whatever.
questions or concerns? All approved?
Thank you.
So,
And do I have permission from the board to sort of just wordsmith that
Yeah,
part of the form, if
absolutely.
that's okay?
Yes, please.
To just get to the spirit of what you were talking about?
Yes.
Okay,
Thank you, Melissa.
thank you.
so speaking on unsure things, I just want to go back to the capital reserve fund. So in the warrant, it says the voters raise and appropriate up to $1 million to be placed in the school renovation reconstruction fund. If it's up to 1 million, don't we have to vote on how much up to 1 million we're going to do?
No. That's saying that whatever's the excess. So if it's only 750,000 excess, it's up to whatever's excess. That's
Okay.
what-
All right.
Yep, good question.
Okay. Moving on to board comments and correspondence. No? Okay. And then, Mr. Thompson with the consent agenda?
So I'm going to start this evening. This doesn't require board action, as would a professional staff. Does require action. The board administrative does not necessarily. And I'm going to read this letter. And if I start to get emotional, I'm going to hand it to Jeff. And it's going to be an awkward moment where you're going to see a grown man cry. So I received a letter from our Director of Student Services, Jessica Parsons, with a heavy heart. I'm writing to formally announce my resignation from my position as the Director of Student Services of the Hampstead School District, effective June 30th, 2024. The last 2 years have been an incredible experience, and I deeply appreciate the support, guidance, and opportunities for growth provided by the district. I have accepted an extraordinary opportunity to serve as the Executive Director of Academics at a private soccer academy dedicated to both soccer and academic development. This new role aligns with my educational leadership aspirations and my love for a sport that I truly love. I personally want to thank you, Mr. Thompson, for your support and trust in allowing me to manage and lead the Hampstead Department of Student Services. With your support, we have evaluated and improved our systems, implemented MTSS A and B, trained and rolled out restorative practices and circles. As part of the department improvements, we have updated and enhanced the extended school year program to better serve our students' needs, and restructured our special education programming at both the middle school and central school to more effectively meet the diverse needs of our learners. Lastly, to note, we have created an experiential learning program rooted in teaching essential skills, enabling our students to access their education and their community more fully. I could not be more proud of these accomplishments. During my time at Hampstead, I've had the privilege of working alongside notable and dedicated professionals who are committed to making a positive difference in the lives of students. The collaborative spirit and shared vision for student success have been truly inspiring. I am committed to ensuring a smooth transition and will do everything I can to assist in the handover process. Let me know how I can help during this period. Thank you again for the incredible opportunity and for your unwavering support. I look forward to staying in touch and wish the Hampstead School District continued success. Sincerely, Jessica Parsons. So, I just want to say that the last 2 years working with Jess have been awesome. And I will leave it at that.
Yep, I'll echo that sentiment. I'm absolutely gutted at this news, but it's because of the impact of the work that you've done here in a short amount of time. What you were presented with from a student services standpoint, I understand was an uphill battle and not easy to grab a hold of and right the ship, so to speak. So I have so much respect for you as an educator, as a professional, and I wish you great luck in your future endeavors here.
You're an incredible professional, and your ability to make a really complex thing incredibly approachable and easy to understand is beyond what I've seen in just about anybody else I've worked with. So you're amazing, and I hate soccer now, but
I know if we change the name of the district, just include the phrase, have something to do with soccer.
Yeah.
Be able to.
But thank you so much.
Yeah, that's true.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I'd just like to say thank you. I mean, I look at the dynamic duo there with you and Francine. It's, appreciative of what's happened in the last 2 years. You really have done a great job to put us back to where we wanted to be. We lost it for a little bit. You came in right at the right time to help us get it back to what was there just a year, 2 years before then. And the district's, really appreciative of what you've been doing, laid the foundation, and now we'll be poking at Mr. Thompson to try to find some way to get even someone to your level. It's going to be hard to do that. I'm not saying I doubt it, but it's going to be hard. So thank you for at least putting the foundation there.
I'm new to the board, but just from what I've heard of the changes that you've made, I'm very impressed, and I'm happy as a parent and an educator to see the things that you have started here and laid the groundwork for, so thank you. And Francine can't retire.
Just making that perfectly clear.
Yeah, absolutely. And so just to, additionally, just to give an update, we still have a music teaching position available at the middle school. We also began the process, as has been previously discussed with the board, of using our IDEA funds to bring in for some additional coordination at the Central School of Special Education. That posting has gone out as well. The two regular education classroom vacancies at the Central School, I will be meeting with finalists in the coming days or into next week, and I think that we have that firmed up, knock on wood. So the director position is posted. I don't anticipate we're going to find another Jess, but I would say to anyone who is an aspiring director of student services or works in special education, it is a really amazing opportunity. And the opportunity, Jess and I have talked about her really helping with transition and utilizing her skills officially for our district in some capacity, which would include mentoring the new person. So someone who were to come in, the mentorship from somebody who is the best student services director I've ever worked with, and I've worked with a lot of them, that is the opportunity that a new person would have to be able to work with someone like Jess. So, and we will reach out to all of our networks and anyone we know and really try to fill that. And in the meantime, we're exploring also advertising in tandem for an interim director, really someone to help as we transition to filling the permanent spot. So that's it for the personnel report. Just moving on to the superintendent report, and I'll keep it brief, but I just want to, again, send out our heartfelt condolences to Pat Farrell's family. So Pat worked in our cafeteria for well over 30 years. She is an institution at the Hampstead Central School and had been bravely battling cancer. Getting that phone call from Dr. Cheney last week was really hard. And again, as I said earlier, it's we've had 2 staff members who have passed this year. Hasn't been easy. So our hearts go out to Pat's family. There is a number of good things that have been going on. I had the opportunity to attend Pinkerton graduation last Friday, and I congratulate Mr. Dowd, who had a son graduating. I did brag to Mr. Dowd that I have, the superintendent and school board members have a section that's closest to the stage. Unfortunately, because of the rain, the lady in front of me with the umbrella, I couldn't see the stage. So Mr. Dowd actually had a better seat than I did. But it was truly, it's such a well-done production. Yes, it did rain. It kind of added to the excitement of it. The program was around 2 hours. It was great. And then I just want to throw in there, we have other graduates. And so I had the opportunity last week to, along with Francine Flynn, to attend the graduation for one of our out-of-district students. And it was just such an incredible experience. Given the student's program, it was an individualized graduation, which meant it was friends and family and classmates, and presents and cake, and it felt kind of like a homecoming. And what was really neat, what I really appreciated was they put the sort of processional music on, and the student comes in his cap and gown, and I look at the parents, and the parents start crying, and then everyone in the room is crying, and just this sense of beaming with pride. And it's just a good reminder that, not all of our students go to Pinkerton. Our job as educators in this district is to ensure that we're educating all children, and that doesn't mean, that they're all going to the same high school or the same elementary school. So it was great perspective, and I appreciate the invitation, and it's my hope to attend future out-of-district graduations. Along with that, I'm kind of backing up. The day before graduation, we did the clap out with the seniors. So basically, our students in both schools line the hallways. Our graduates come here in cap and gown, and then they walk the hallways to just joyous celebrations. And I appreciate Angela Berube, who is the Eagle Tribune reporter, does an amazing job covering Hampstead. We really appreciate her coverage. did a great article. And, you know, I really have to thank Megan Howard, who is a former graduate who organized this last year as a graduate, came back this year. She easily could have passed the baton. She didn't. She organized it, took some amazing photos. She's an aspiring photographer. So I want to thank Megan. This is a new tradition in our school district. We will do this moving forward, and just to see, because we have staff members who have children that graduated, and to be able to see them, see their child in their cap and gown, often for the first time, that was really cool. And then I just want to also add too that I had the opportunity Lily Walsh, who's one of our state representatives, had reached out to Dr. Cheney and I. She came in and presented copies of the Constitution to all fourth grade students. Also gave out flags to first grade students for Flag Day, which is on the 14th, and the board is welcome to attend that ceremony. So I appreciated the outreach that she did. And then today I also had the opportunity to meet with State Senator Regina Birdsell, who met and just was seeking feedback on some legislation that is currently pending in the House and Senate. I truly appreciate the fact that she was looking for my perspective and was able to share with her some of the needs that the Hampstead School District has. And then lastly, Friday's the last day of school. It's very exciting. So, there's been a lot of really great events between field days and field trips, and there's a lot of energy in the building. We have professional development planned for our teachers next week. We've made some adjustments to that schedule, but look forward to ending the year strong. So, and if the board has any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
I don't want to jinx it, but I'll just say, as far as those regular ed positions at the central school, I'm relieved to hear that they're trending towards being filled. We'll keep it at that, and so quickly that we don't have to go through the summer and stress about it and have it on our minds on trying to fill those positions.
And I'm not allowed to predetermine employment because I'm sitting next to the HR director, but I will tell you that I have reviewed their materials. I am aware of their work. We have real quality coming in.
Awesome.
Should we choose to hire them, and should they choose to accept the job, and should the board approve their nomination? So,
but of course.
Yeah, process. So.
All right.
No questions.
No questions. Moving on to other business.
Mr. Chairman, you mind if I take the floor for a few minutes?
Okay.
I guess it's time for change. So I'm announcing I'm resigning at the end of the school year. A little surprise to everybody. There's some reasons, personal, career, etc. But I just want to take a few minutes to say thank you to a few people. Wow, didn't think it was going to be this hard. Thought Bob was going to be the only one with kind of tear in his eye. A little bit of surprise. I was going to wait till end of the school year to announce it, and through just an email to the board and to administration, but I thought it's better for the board to do this, so that way the communication gets out and they can start looking for a new board member to replace, and I can help out as needed for the next few weeks. So I'm going to just say who I'll be thanking. See, I'm scribbling some lists here. That's what was going on, so I apologize while you're talking. I want to thank some past board members that have really become good friends of mine. Caitlin, Jay, Megan, and Aaron. I still talk to them quite often, and they still give some mentorship as needed. I also want to thank Dr. Hubner, Missy, Richard, and Andy for the current board and what we've been doing, and all board members in general for a lot of I'd say great things that have been done over the last few years since I've been on the board and even before. But while I've been on board, we've got the 60s wing renovation, we've got new administration, we have a lot of great new staff here, great new admin. So I want to thank them. I also want to thank those that have stayed around because when you change from an SAU, you don't know who's going to stick around. So, namely, I want to say thanks to Jeff and the Jeffs, to Joe, Francine, and The Rock here. For those that don't know, The Rock Melissa, she should just change her name to The Rock. I think it's already been copyrighted, but just in case, Melissa, I really want to say thank you from being a brand new board member with giving me things that I actually read, piles that I read, just any little tidbits and just talking in general when I stop by. I really appreciate that. Thank you to Bob. Yeah. Thanks.
And I just want to say, do you remember the conversation that we had in the parking lot of the English Muffin on the very first day I met you? I wasn't even superintendent yet. And the last thing I said to you was, get ready, because we're about to do some really amazing things. We will look back on this moment and say, that's when it all started. So, Mr. Smith, that's when it all started.
Yeah. I'll get back to that in a minute when I can composure. I want to say thanks to the community. It's been a fun ride. It's been up and down roller coaster. Gained a lot of friends, lost a few friends. Been able to be in a community. For those that don't know, before I came to Hampstead, I never lived in a town more than 4 years. I'm now 47, so it says a lot. I've been in town now for 10 years, and this is my hometown. So I look forward to raising my kids here, and part of the reason for being on the board and other opportunities because of that. I definitely want to say thanks to the teachers and staff. I gave the story earlier about my 5 and 7-year-old. One was struggling reading, got a lot of help. One took off her reading and just challenged to read even more. So those are just simple stories that just tell the bigger novel here in the town. They're very dedicated. To all the volunteers, holy cow, name the number of volunteers, the 200 you talked about. You got the Mothers Club, Civic Club. I'm going to name 1,000 clubs, and I still wouldn't stop, that do a lot of great things in this town, and that's why it's a great small town. Let's see. I'll talk about just 2 more quick things. I promise it's stopped. For Bob, one thing that sticks with me is the kid in the chair. For me, I think about the kid that teachers don't think about. That was me. I barely graduated. Took 6 months off of high school, went in the Navy, found myself. But it was because I had some teachers that checked in with me. So I just want to say, when you tell that story about the kids that weren't there. So, Jesus, it's way too hard, so I got to go right to the end. Lastly, I want to thank my daughters, all 4 of them that have put up with this, that think it's cool, but also horrible, that I've been in the school board chair, and just making decisions and asking me to, can't you make the last day Memorial Day? Nope, sorry, can't do that. Can't you make the first day Halloween? Nope, can't do that either. So, just want to thank my daughters for being there. And of course, last but not least, my rock, my wife. She's had to hear some pounding on the floors of angry and happy and everything else. And she's been part of the up and downs with it. And I just want to say thank you to Sarah. She's my rock, my sounding board, my conscience. Tells me to smarten up sometimes, challenging me to be a better board member. So just thank you to her. And with that, I'll be submitting my formal resignation in the coming week, and fare thee well.
David, can I ask, can you teach music? Clearly you have good taste in music.
I can definitely recommend some really great music, but playing it, I leave that to Andy.
All right. Well, if you change your mind, I might have a job for you.
Appreciate that.
I don't want to drag this out too long, but I'll just say thank you for your years of obviously community service. You're another big contributor to the success of the district, and for me personally, not only just as your friend, but as a new board chair, having you as a mentor, having you as a person to listen to me vent has been extremely helpful. Good luck with, am I allowed to say where you're going, what you're doing? No.
No.
Good luck with the future. And yeah, obviously you'll excel and do well in your next phase.
Thank you. So, yeah. Can we go to non-public now?
Let's go to non-public. Let's drive this train to non-public. All right, we are going to head into non-public under RSA 91A3 2L, which is the consideration of legal advice provided by legal counsel, either in writing or orally, to one or more members of the public body, even where legal counsel is not present. And Melissa, will you take roll?
And sorry, did I hear a motion to go into non-public?
I will make a motion to go into non-public.
Did we have a second?
Second.
Thank you, David. All right, I'll take roll call. Is that okay? All right. Ms. Denton? Yes. Dr. Hubner? Yes. Mr. Cabarrus?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Thank you. The time is 9:41.